Hey guys, technical difficulties. How can you hear me? Can anybody hear me? Hoping that you can hear me now. Okay, welcome everybody. I am very excited to be here. I'm going to start all over again. And thank you so much for hanging in there for these 2+ minutes, 3 minutes where I was babbling and nobody could hear me. So we're going to start again. I'm going to start by welcoming you to Mixed Media Tuesdays. I am really excited to be here today. This is the beginning of a new series for me. I will be here. And when I say here, first of all, that's new. I'm going to be on YouTube and Facebook at the same time. And I'm going to be here the second and fourth Tuesday of the month, mostly at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, just like today. And we're going to be doing a lot of different things. I'm going to introduce the whole concept. I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction to some things that are coming up. And then we're going to demo. You see right here, we're going to demo. So I am going back because I'm going to spend the first few minutes welcoming people. If you're watching on recording, you know what? You can welcome people along with me, or you can just jump ahead a little bit. But I need to say thank you to Janine Kalb for being here. She is the best team I've ever had, the only team I've ever had, and she is here to make things better for everybody. All right, so I want to welcome Bonnie and Karen, and Glenda, Dory, Paul, Rhonda, Christy, Leah, Carol, Pamela. This is an all-star crew. Thank you all for joining me. Marty, Margaret, Nicole, Monique, Beth. So good to see you guys. Cindy, thanks for letting me know you can hear me. Annie, Carol, Victoria, Dawn, Marty. I may have said Marty already. Mary, Annie, Catherine, Linda, Beverly. Everybody who's anybody's here. And if you're not here, you're still somebody. I promise you. Judah, welcome. Grace, Julie. So great to see you guys. Thank you so much. We are here on double screens, right? And exciting about that is that we are going to be demoing today. I'm really excited about that. But before that, I just want to introduce you to the concept of Mixed Media Tuesdays and let you know what it's all about. I also want to make mention that I am about to embark on a huge studio redo. I decided to do that today. I am excited about what I'm doing now with StreamYard, going to YouTube in addition to Facebook. I still need to work on my lighting, and my lighting, I have the solution, and it's natural light. That's what I really like. I have lights, I just don't like them. So I'm going to be moving around my studio so that I can take advantage of all the natural light that doesn't appear to be behind me, but actually is. And so the next time we do this, I think you're going to see a big difference. But in the meantime, thank you for bearing with all the changes that I've been making in my schedule and in my tech. So Mixed Media Tuesdays, what are they about? Who, what, how, where, why? So I am somebody who loves this connection with my people. And for the longest time, many of you know, I did Facebook Lives on Wednesday. I did them from the beginning of the pandemic, throughout the pandemic, to multiple months, I'd even say years after. And I recently stopped the Wednesday Lives to shift around my schedule. And I miss you all. I really do. I enjoy the connection. I did an art show this past weekend, and I was saying to a lot of the people there that being with other people, whether it's in person or online, who are creatives, it gives me fuel. It's just total fuel. And I was running on empty. I mean, I was doing fine, my friends, but I miss this component. So I'm redoing how I go about lives, and I am going to test this plan out to the end of 2024. And at that point, maybe I'll ask for feedback. Maybe I'll decide myself with Janine what's working, what's not working, and we'll make a new plan for 2025. But the plan is to split my time online between 2 events. The first event is the one you're here, the very first Mixed Media Tuesdays. I'm hoping maybe in 17 years from now, I'm going to be able to look back and say, do you guys remember the first Mixed Media Tuesdays we did? That's my older voice. Sorry about that. That was embarrassing. And the Mixed Media Tuesdays, they're the second and fourth Tuesday of every month, 2:30 p.m., although that will shift depending upon certain events and releases. And they could be about me chatting, Q&A, it could be a demo, it could be a walkthrough, it could be a private shopping, it could be a walkabout in New York City, it could be so many different things, but they're all going to be coming to you every single Tuesday. My schedule is freed up on Tuesday until the last Tuesday of December, which I believe is Christmas Eve, and I'm taking that day off. So please plan to being here. Put it in your calendar. You can watch me on YouTube. You can watch me on Facebook. The quality of the video should be so much better than it used to be because I am now using StreamYard. I'm double streaming, and I'm hoping everything works better. And once I move my studio around and get those lights working, man, oh man, it's going to be good. All right, so the other thing I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to talk in more detail in a few minutes, is the art salon. I am going to be having pop-up events through the end of the calendar year. These could be conversations with other artists. They could be small mini classes. They could be panels. They could be some of these special events that you will have to register for. There are limited number of people that are able to attend because of the Zoom limits. They are costly. That's the worst word to use. There will be a charge to sign up, and they may or may not be recorded. And I'm going to tell you about what's coming up in a moment and share with you, for those of you who don't know, the first art salon. I want this to be a conversation. I love going back and forth. I don't want it to be a lecture. I'm not in the classroom. I'm in my NYC studio. And you know I'm serious because I'm wearing my paint shirt. So you know I'm really serious about being creative today. If you have any questions or comments along the way, please leave them. If I miss them, just ask me again. Maybe Janine can help too if she sees that I've missed something. But I am just so appreciative that you're all here. And again, if you're watching on recording, thank you. I'm going to look through the comments one more time, and then I am going to shift gears and take you through some announcements. And then I promise we'll get to the demo. If you're not into the announcements, now's the time to go get your snacks to be prepared for the demo. Hey, Yvonne, Jody, welcome, welcome. Hey, Trina, great to see you. Hey, Loie, glad you're here. Patricia's here. Thanks, Marty. I really appreciate that. I love that I get to highlight comments. That is just so cool. Thank you, Jane. That means a lot to me. I really appreciate that. The energy works both ways. I love that. Thank you so much, guys. I am so happy to be back on track with this. This is really important to me. Hey, Beverly, thank you. Thank you. Electrical sockets in the right place. Yeah, I need to pull out a few things and see what is actually behind there. If not, I will be buying, or actually probably using, old extension cords. Thanks, Julie. Glad you found me as well. The paint shirt. Yeah, that's my seriousness. Hey, Louise. Great to see you. It has been a long time. Dawn, did I say every Tuesday? Okay, so apologize. It is not. It is the second and fourth Tuesday of every month. And I probably just got really excited and want to be here every Tuesday, but schedule will not allow that. So it's the second and fourth. Thank you for mentioning that. Appreciate that. Hey, Leek, very good to see you. I am so excited to be reaching people on YouTube. I have said for the last, I don't know, maybe 57 years, this is the year of YouTube. And somehow I pop into YouTube and then I pop out. So these lives are my commitment to YouTube. Even those of you who love Facebook, YouTube might even be easier in some ways. Stacy Karen is here. My God, we have Stacy. Stacy, I miss you so much. Those of you who don't know who Stacy is one of the OGs in the craft world. She created and ran Spellbinders forever. And I owe her a lot because she is really the person who supported me and guided me and brought me into product design. I had already created stencils with Stencil Girl, but then I went whole hog with Spellbinders, and boy, that changed my life. So thank you, Stacy, for that and for popping in. Karen made it live. I love that. I think we have 3 Karens. Thanks, Stace. Love you, mean it too. All right, guys, let's go to announcements. All right. So the way MMTs, Mixed Media Tuesday, is going to work is that I'm going to always start with announcements. So if you run late and you don't care about the announcements, you're good to go. But I'm going to announce what is coming up with my schedule. And I'm going to also talk just briefly today, sometimes more, but just briefly today about some new items in my online shop. And if you didn't know I had an online shop, just you wait. Hey, Betsy, great to see you. Yeah, MMT, Marty, you know, all the cool kids. It's all the letters now, right? So it's MMT and the art salon is TAS. Maybe we can call it Taz, but that reminds me of Tasmania, and I don't want to confuse the people from down under. So, okay. So my announcements, I just want to take you through my schedule. I have a lot coming up. All of this is posted on my website, SethApter.com. I have several sections. One of them is my live events, and one of them is online events. So you can always go there and find that. But if there's anything that really excites you, maybe jot it down. Or maybe I should do that because so many of us type rather than write. And hey, Mags, great to see you. Okay, so tomorrow you get more of me, maybe too much of me, but more of me tomorrow, which is 9/11, which is a very emotional day for me, having lived in New York through 9/11. But tomorrow I'm going to be focusing on my new fabric release. I'm going to talk about that in a second, but I am going to be on Live with Annie. Let's show you how prepared I am, my friends. Let's just show you how prepared I am. All right, so I'm going to be on Live with Annie tomorrow. That's at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, which is 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And I am going to be interviewed by the very famous Annie. If you don't know fabric, you may not know Annie, but if you know fabric, you know Annie. And we're going to be talking about my background, my new collection with Free Spirit Fabrics. I think it's going to be really, really fun. Thanks, Cindy. So that's tomorrow, Wednesday the 11th. On Sunday, September 22, you can read all about it here. It's the first art salon. And my first art salon, I invited one of my best art buddies, Robin McClendon, who anyone who knows loves. We are going to spend an hour giving kind of a webinar, and it's entitled Finding Your Voice, Telling Your Story. It is $10 to register for. Registration is open, and it's only open in my shop. Janine is leaving comments here and with links, but again, you can get all these links from SethApter.com. And this is going to be live. It will not be recorded, so that will be your only chance if you come live. There's a question about will we be able to view Live with Annie in the UK, and I know that some places set their videos only for the US. Perhaps it's only because maybe they don't realize that sometimes you have to adjust the settings. I hope so, Paul, but honestly, I am not 100% sure. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate that. All right, so then 9/24. So the next Tuesday for MMT, Mixed Media Tuesdays, is the 24th. And normally Mixed Media Tuesdays are 2:30, but it's a special day. It's a release day, a new release day. I love new release days, my friend. And it's a new release day with Paper Artsy. Not sure if I'm supposed to say that, but now you guys know. And because of that, I'm going to be live on YouTube and Facebook at 4 p.m. Those of you who don't know me well, I work with Paper Artsy with a lot of products, including stamps. This was my last release. They were big sets. Not going to tell you what my new release is, but I really am excited about it. So you can join me for lots of event excitement that day. All right, that brings us into October. And oh no, that doesn't bring us in October. We're still in September. There's so much coming up. So as I mentioned, I have a new line of fabric coming out with Free Spirit Fabrics. Again, more on that in a moment. And I am doing a short tour of a number of different shops. And my first shop that I'm going to is Artistic Artifacts. It actually doesn't even say it on that, so that may not have been the best thing to print out. But Artistic Artifacts is in Virginia, just over the border of DC. And I'm going to be there for 3 days. The 27th is a little bit of at 7 p.m. Eastern, a little bit of a talk, a lecture, sharing the new fabrics, showing people what we've made with them, talking about how the collection was designed. The next day, I am teaching a class. It's Saturday the 28th. The class is called Fabric Framework. It's my notion of a mixed media quilt, a quilt you can hang on the wall. There's batting inside here. It's framed out. Can't really see it all, but this is what we're going to make. So if you're interested in that, there are some spots left. And the Sunday class is sold out. It's filled. It's called Journalography. And if we're going to make something like this is a sample. And if this excites you, but you're not going to be there, know that I'll be teaching this starting next year elsewhere. All right. Hope we're doing okay here. If I didn't have that glitch at the beginning, I'd be 5 minutes ahead, but we're going to have plenty of time for demoing. All right, now I want to take you into October. So just off showing my artist books at Art on Paper in New York City, I have another gallery show coming up. This is called The Red Thread. And you all know how much I love red thread, so I'm happy to be part of this. This is taking place at the Art League of Ocean City in Maryland. The opening is October 4th from 5 to 8 p.m. I will not be able to be at the opening. I will go there sometime later in the month. The show runs most of October. And at some point, I'll post the piece that's in that show and share that with you. Julie asked this very important question. Does anyone live in Sydney, Australia, and know where I can get paper artsy Seth things? I do, Julie. I mean, I don't live in Sydney, although I wouldn't mind that, but I can tell you how to get paper artsy things. So you can either message me on Facebook, you can email me. If you don't know my email, you can just come to my website and it's all listed there. Thanks for asking. I love my Australian friends. I'm going to be down there next year. I'm already planning to be down there again in 2026. It's a very exciting kind of home away from home for me. And Janine also put a link where you can find paper artsy products worldwide. All right, I'm going to take you through just a few more. I want to take you to close to home, where I'm going to be teaching a little bit of a less mixed media version of Fabric Framework. This is a sewing and fabric shop in Glastonbury, Connecticut, which is near Hartford. Registration is open. There are spots left. That's on Saturday, October 5th. And since I'll be there, that's the reason why I'm not able to go to the opening the night before in Maryland. I'm also going to be in New York, in Huntington on the island. If you're from New York, you know when I say the island, I don't mean Manhattan, I mean Long Island. And I'll be in Huntington at North Shore Quilting and Fiber Arts. One day, it's October 24th. It's a Thursday. I'm going to be doing a little bit of a trunk show, meet and greet, and I'll be doing a 2-hour class. I don't have the sample handy, but it is a class called Too Cool for Spool, where we'll be making a paper and fabric spool art. Betsy's coming to the Glastonbury class. So happy to hear that. That really, really, really makes me happy. All right, just 2 more announcements about events. And hopefully you're taking all this in, or at least the ones that are near you. I am repeating something I did earlier this year. The Queen's Ink store that recently closed in Maryland. is run by a wonderful person named Patty Euler. Anybody who knows her loves her. And we did an art escapade earlier in the year, and we are repeating it. It's November 1, 2, and 3. It's just outside Baltimore in, if I dare try to pronounce it, Linthicum Heights. And there is literally one seat left. I kid you not, one seat left. So if anybody is local and wants to go, you can either click over the link if Janine is able to leave it. If not, just go to my website and you will see the link there under the live events. I'm hoping one of you guys gets to fill that. It's a 3-day mega event. It's really, really special. And you can read about the details by clicking over. Last but not least, well, before last but not least, I love that. Christy said, Queen's Ink is where my art journey started years ago when I picked up a craft magazine. Yeah, and then it's never going to end. Love it. Isn't that an amazing image? So, you know, these are mine. I mean, I did that one. That's not bad, right? These are mine. This I did not do. It's gorgeous. All right. Last but not least, I am giving you guys, because you're also special, you showed up at the first MMT, Mixed Media Tuesday. Some of you are still here after 25 minutes where we haven't even demoed yet. I want to give you the heads up. This has only been announced to a small group of people who were involved in a prior class. First time I'm announcing this. I'm so excited about that I think I need to do that. All right, so I am going in 2026 with Craft Tours, the same group I went to Spain with last year, to, Loie, can I have a drum roll, please? To Japan. Yes, I'm going to Japan. And I have a 10-day adventure that is blowing my mind because it is so special. It is basically art and all art with a lot of other things, because you can't go to Japan and only have art. I'll be teaching a bit. We're going to be going to Kyoto. We're going to be going to Nara. We're going to be going to Tokyo. We are going to go to craft stores. We're going to be going to flea markets. I think we're going to try to go to the 1,000 vendor flea market. We're going to be doing a shibari dyeing class. We're going to be doing a formal tea ceremony. We're going to have a bus that brings us around. We're going to take the bullet train. I know I'm forgetting more. We're going to be going to a kaleidoscope museum and making our own kaleidoscopes. We're going to be learning all about kimonos and going to a kimono museum. We're going to be eating. We're going to be having fun. This is not an inexpensive event. However, for what is offered, we are able to get a pretty good price for the amount that you get here. So anybody who has 2+ years to save, because it's in October, please, please, please think about joining me in Japan. It is a bucket list location for me, and probably the only time I'll ever go to Japan. So if any of you guys can come, that would be incredible. All right, so Louise says, please come to England. Louise, I will be in the UK 100% next year. When? Not sure. Let's take a guess and say most likely March, but I may be there twice. So you won't have that long to wait. All right. And Sandra, welcome. All right, so you guys, I have to say that, let's see here. Yes, it is totally time for the demo. I was originally going to show you some things from the shop. I don't want to shortchange the demo too much. So I'm going to show you a couple things from the shop, and then I am going to demo and maybe demo a little longer than planned. Yes. So the first thing is right now there is a pre-order for my new fabrics from Free Spirit. The collection is called Live Out Loud. You can pre-order them from my site. You can also get them worldwide in stores that sell sewing products, thread, quilting fabrics, other fabrics, craft materials. And in fact, they're shipping now to some stores. It's a rollout. So I don't have them yet, but some other people do. So I'm just going to quickly take you through and just answer a few questions. Yes, Dawn, you'll be able to replay this session. It's going to stay in the live section on YouTube. It's going to stay on my Facebook feed, and I may edit it. I'm going to test this out. I may edit it down and put it back on YouTube without all these announcements, so you can get right to the heart of the demo. Yeah. Okay, and Paul's birthday is in a month, so it's a double treat. That is awesome. All right, so really quickly, there are some beautiful fabrics in this line. It's 100% cotton with such a beautiful feel. It's created with Free Spirit Fabrics, which is the company that also produces fabrics for Tula Pink, for Kay, for Tim Holtz. It's designed with both the quilter and the mixed media artist in mind. So I'm just going to flip through, give you a sense in case you haven't seen these. And if you're interested in more detail about these, to see the art that developed into this, to hear the story, join me live tomorrow with Live with Annie at 4 p.m. Eastern on their YouTube channel. All right, so that's fabric in the shop. I also am thrilled to be the exclusive, how crazy is this, the exclusive retail outlet in the United States and Canada for Nick Bantock stamps. Nick Bantock is the amazing person who does so much in art, but is very, very well known for writing the Griffin and Sabine series. And those of you who don't know that series, you should look it up. You should Google it. And those of you who do know it know how amazing it is and what I'm talking about. So there is a shop and a manufacturer in the UK, the Artistic Stamper. They sell these worldwide. I sell these in North America. This is his 4th collection. I'm just going to quickly flip through them. They have this very special sort of magical realism vibe. And they're available in my shop as well. While I'm flipping through, Louise asked the question, where can I buy the fabric in the UK? Louise, you can message me or email me and I will get that information to you. I am just beginning to get that information because the fabric is just shipping. But honestly, I don't think I'm speaking wrongly, that's a word, that the Artistic Stamper will be carrying it as well, but there will be others. All right, and Paul noted that he thoroughly enjoyed my live with Nick. I did an interview with Nick and Joyce. If you did not know that, you can find it on YouTube. So, you know, at least wait till I'm finished today before you go there, though. And then last but not least, I have, and I'm going to shift cameras for this. I have a new Zip It. I did pre-orders for it. I have just a few left over from the pre-orders. I ordered just a few extra. This is my Zip It, which is a zip pouch. I right now do not have any smalls or larges. I just have the jumbo, and this jumbo is jumbo. It can fit all your small Zip-Its. So this is available. It is with my original art on both sides, and it is called Wonder. So that's available as well. If you want to look at my shop, find these products, it's just at sethapter.com, which is everything. Stacy, yes, you can put all your stuff in there. Thanks, Grace. Sure, Louise. All right, you guys, let's get to it. Yes, because really, I know you're all here for the demo, right? That's really what floats your boat, if you have a boat. Okay, so what are we doing today? If you want to play along, you're going to need just a few things. You're going to need a jelly plate. You're going to need a brayer. You're going to need some paper, because I guess you could use other things to pull a print, but we're going to use paper, and we're going to be using black. Love a black background. It just changes everything that you put over it. We're going to be using some paint. Can I find some paint? Yes, we're going to be using some paint. I'll talk to you about the paint that I'm using. We're going to be using some ink pads. Talk to you about those ink pads. we're going to be using some stamps. And I don't usually use an acrylic block for stamps, but I am for some of the techniques I'm doing. That's all we need. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ingredients, an odd number. That's really good. And you can play along, or you can do anything do anything else you want. Maybe you're at work and you can't really make art, but you can kind of peek over. Thanks, Linda. Linda said, awesome zip it. Rhonda, Rusty is your favorite paint color. I love that. All right, so I decided for the first Mixed Media Tuesday, I wanted to go back to basics. And I have shifted a lot over the years to starting my layers with the gel plate rather than with a paintbrush. And so I thought, you know what? First MMT, let's just start as if I've never been online before. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to grab a couple colors of paint, and I want to show you just how typically I work. I usually start with 2 colors of paint, and I do that just so I get a little bit of a blend and a mix. It's interesting to me how there are many, 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 many people out there who will only use the paint from the bottle, and they never mix. And I understand that. It's very daunting when you don't know about mixing paint, but a good place to start is with the jelly plate. You're going to pick 2 colors and just put a little bit in a couple places. And because you're only using 2 colors, you don't have to worry that you are going to make that dreaded mud. I always like to tell people that I actually created a paint called Mud Splat so that people would not be so afraid of mud. Because, you know, when we were kids, we loved to play in mud, right? I'm using Paper Artsy. They're chalk fresco acrylics, which means that they're matte in finish. They dry quickly. They come either opaque or translucent or semi. And you can use any kind of marker or pen to write over them. And once they dry to the touch, they are dry. If you use it in a book, you will never, ever, ever have a problem with your pages sticking together. So I'm just rolling out the paint. In doing so, I mix the colors, and I'm going to lay down my black paper. It is just traditional cardstock. It's nothing special. You don't need anything special. And I'm going to just burnish it with my hand, and I'm going to pull up. And this is what I get. And I just want you to note that I don't often clean my plate. So my favorite part is that little bit of pink, soft pink that appeared there. Now, I want to make mention of a couple things. I want you to always have an extra piece of paper near you so that when your brayer has been used, you can just go ahead and you can just start an extra piece. I always do this. Sometimes I do it in my journal rather than on a piece of paper. I don't want to waste anything. And you may have noticed that I did pretty well with not putting too much paint on the gel plate. I tend to be, as many people, heavy pourers, and when you are, you end up wasting paint. And in fact, if there's too much paint on there, it just kind of gets sort of globby. And globby is sometimes good, but not always. As Janine mentioned, the colors I'm using right there were steel gray and fuzzy cactus. And that is the mix. And you can see the variability I get because I use 2 colors. And that's really what I'm going for. I like to start my first layer with opaque paint. It will give good coverage to what's underneath it. And I also like it to be pretty consistent, but not full on consistent. And Jane, as Jane noted, and I agree, colors look good on black. Again, if you haven't used black as a background, try it. And the gel plate is the perfect thing to try it with. Now, let's just say I want to add another layer. And if you all know me, you know, of course I'm going to add another layer. Never in a million, thousand, gazillion years would I stop there. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stick with some opaque paints. And I'm going to add tundra and glacier ice. Louise says, as your suggestion, I bought a gel plate. OMG, it's fantastic. Yes, I'm so happy you got it because it's life-changing. And, you know, if it's ever a rainy day and you need something to do inside creatively for 12 hours, the gel plate is it. All right, so do I know exactly what color this is going to be? No, I have a kind of an idea, but the exciting thing about mixed media is that it almost doesn't matter, especially at the early layers. You can use any colors because you're just going to keep covering them. So if there's any point in time at all that you have a layer that you hate, the last thing you want to do is get frustrated. It's just a layer that's going to be sandwiched into another layer, and that may in the end be your most favorite peak. I am going to go ahead, and this time I'm going to do it a little differently. Instead of laying this on and burnishing the whole thing, I'm going to do what I call kissing. I'm going to kiss it, which means I'm just going to lay it down a little bit, and I'm going to do a little bit of a swipe. I'm going to move it around, do a little bit of a swipe. Maybe just a little bit more right there. So in doing so, I have opaque over opaque. It's really important that you understand if your paint is opaque or translucent, because if it's opaque and I pulled that print fully, I would have absolutely covered everything underneath. And the key to the layering, one layer away from magic, is that you never fully cover what's underneath. Now I got this, which I could pull another print or let it dry, but I think I'll pull another print. If I let it dry, it just means I am going to pull it up with whatever next layer comes. I'm going to pull another print, and this is where the black begins to really show its magic. There's still some left there. Remember, I got this on my brayer, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to brayer it out on this. I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to kind of do it like a kiss again. You can go very heavy-handed or you can go nice and soft. And if you just skip over a little bit, and you go nice and soft, you get a very different effect than when you go heavy, heavy. Of course, as it dries, you're able to go heavier. And let's just add that. These are not going to stick together because I'm using the Paper Artsy paint. And now I'm going to go back to this. Now I am shortchanging this, guys, because we're demoing, and I do want to show you as many techniques as possible, but know that when I'm working in my own pieces, I would continue layering here. I would just keep layering. So I'm going to do that one more time. I'm going to layer with Niagara Falls, which is going to have the same tones as it is there already, that are there already. When I create, sometimes I don't remember quite how to speak. And I am going to add some heavy cream, which is my favorite white paint. And Mark had asked, and Janine had answered, what kind of paper is this? If you're joining, this is just simply simple, basic black cardstock. I also often pull prints using printer paper. And not because it's called printer paper, but because it's inexpensive. It works really well for collage. And I'm only going to pull prints on heavier weight paper for me when I want to use that as a background. Usually for my collage material, I want something lighter, cardstock or paperweight. I want to welcome Krabby Abby. I want to welcome Nancy. Those of you who are late, the beginning of this, the first half hour really was me just chatting up a storm. And we are now at the early layers of the demo. And as long as you guys can hang out with me, you know, these Mixed Media Tuesdays are generally in my head about an hour, but I have a feeling, given that it's the inaugural one, I couldn't stop myself from chatting, we're going to go a little bit longer. All right, so what am I going to do? Am I going to pull the full print? You guys already know this. Niagara Falls, heavy cream, because I just shared it with you. No, I'm not going to pull the full print. I'm going to do some kissing. And the kissing is where I just lay it out, give it some really soft burnishing, and add those layers. Now, what is interesting here is I can make some choices. I could keep that black around the edge and frame it out, or I can begin to be aware that I want to integrate that black into the piece. And I'm going to be very conscious of where I press when I pull the print. Most of the time I don't really think about being too conscious. I don't know, was that like saying double no? And I just pull, but sometimes you actually do have to think. One of the reasons why I like the measurements of what I'm using a 6x6" jelly plate with a 7" by 7" piece of black cardstock, is because I can pull like that and get that permanent frame, or I can work that frame. And very often what I do is do 2 or 3 layers first, and then I begin to pull a little bit off the plate on the black edge. And the reason why I do that is because I love a frame. I always talk about the notion that when we have art, we put it on the walls, we frame it. It tells the viewer, this is important. Look inside me, it guides the viewer. I love the contrast of a different edge or frame around things. So if I leave the black, have it overhang for at least a few pulls, then when I start pulling, it's always going to have a different look than the middle. And I think that's really cool. All right, so I got all that stuff there, which is great. And now I'm going to shift gears. First thing I'm going to do before I fully shift gears is I'm going to get my brayer out, which still is a little bit wet. You know, normally when I'm doing this, I'm not talking. So I would brayer these other pieces right away and get more. But I get what I get. That's good. And I am going to continue to use acrylic paint, but this time I'm going to use translucent paint. So the colors that I've used up to this point, I've used 6 colors, 2 in each of the first 3 layers. Just as a reminder, include Fuzzy Cactus, Steel Gray, Heavy Green, Niagara Falls, Tundra, and Glacier Ice. I need 1 extra hand to hold these. Note to self, only use 4 paints next time. And I also want you to notice that when you look really closely at the cover, the label, you see it says opaque, and there's a swipe of the paint, which not only gives you the true color of the paint, but if you can't see or barely can see the lines underneath those, you know you're working with opaque paint. And now I'm going to shift gears to translucent paint. And when paints are translucent, you're going to be able to see the chevrons underneath. It's just an easy, quick way to make a mental note of the difference. And they are completely different in terms of how they work. I love to start with opaque and transfer to the translucent. There's a question just wondering, does anyone use gold leaf with the gel plate? I do love my gold leaf, but I'm not sure how I could use it with the gel plate. I never have, so I can't answer that. But if anyone else has the answer or has experience with that, leave it in the comments. For me, maybe what I would do is I would pull the print, and while the print was still wet, maybe I would add some gold leaf there rather than directly on the plate. Okay, so I want you to notice not only am I using paints that are translucent in the later layers. All right, so I know some of you are on YouTube, some of you are on Facebook, so you're not all seeing the comments. So I'm going to break to let you know that in terms of gold leaf, Yvonne says Robin has it on her YouTube recently. Robin McClendon, the amazing person who's going to be in my first art salon with me the 22nd of this month. Okay, my friends, we're going to have technical difficulty because even though my computer is plugged in, it hasn't been charging for some reason. Need to plug it in. Patience with me, people. All right, thank you, thank you, thank you. I had pulled my computer so far, it actually unplugged it from the wall, but I think we're saved and we're still live. Yes, we are. So Robin is Robin McClendon. Janine might be able to put in a link, or you can just Google her. And then also just on the note of the gold leaf, Mark says it does work great. And Robin does have a YouTube channel, and she is there always. All right, so back to this. So not only am I going from the contrast of opaque to translucent as we move through the layers, but I am going from very, very muted to just much brighter. I love that contrast. And for me, it's always about contrast. So the layers that are muted eventually get contrasted with layers that are brighter. Darker, lighter. Matte, shiny. That contrast is really good. And you're making these sandwiches when you create, where you're putting things in between other things. And who doesn't like a good sandwich, people, right? Like I should do a vote now. Everybody who loves sandwiches, say yes. Actually, let's just be fun and go off topic as we always do. Tell me your favorite sandwich. Leave comments, please, please, please. And while you're doing that, I'm going to start squeezing out some of the paint. So I'm going to go again from this very opaque, muted tone to a little bit of bright. This has a little bit of warmth, but it's mostly cool tones. Now I'm going to add some warm tones, and we're going to see what that does. So I'm going to go with some rusty. Egg salad, roast beef, special on rye, ham. I love that you're all doing this. This is why you're the best, because I could start talking about sandwiches and you guys go with me. Chicken salad sarnie, banana and brown sugar. Okay, stop the presses. I've never had a banana and brown sugar sandwich, Paul. I need to try that. Janine says opaque to translucent, but I'm guessing she doesn't mean sandwiches. Sandwiches make a very fine snack. French dip, chicken club, tuna mayo, shrimp broiled on buttered white bread. That sounds good. Grilled turkey. Oh, this is very specific, Judy. Havarti with a honey mustard dip. Anything with amazing whole. Oh, you're into this, guys. I can barely keep up with the comments. Whole grain bread, olive oil with pesto, turkey ham, turkey on rye, Italian sub, pimento cheese. And as Janine says, if you're new here, it's always about the snacks. BLT. Thanks, Pat. Turkey. Why is it always about the snacks? Actually, let me tell you guys. I need to come back for this, I think. Yes. It's always about the snacks, because for me, there is nothing better than bonding over food. Having a meal together is what connects people. Going to an event and having bad food can sometimes ruin the event. Going to an event where the teacher is meh, but the food is good, it's okay. So talking about snacks here and today's sandwiches is like me bonding with you like family. And that is truth. Chicken salad on rye, seedy multigrain bread, smoked sliced chicken, guacamole, hummus, sauteed mushrooms, and onions. Karen, are you going to cook for the group when we all meet together? Isabel, hello from France. Comment ça va, mon ami? BLT, Monte Cristo with strawberry jam. Interesting. So many sandwiches, so little time. You said that right. So those of you who are just joining, Stacy, you summed it up. Food is love. Fried green tomato is great too. Stop. I'm on a diet. You're killing me. Okay, Barbie, we need to stop. But if you're just joining me and we're talking about food, it's just, I don't know if you've never been to one of my lives. We talk about anything and everything and somehow meander, but get back to what we need to do. All right, so let's get back to it. So lasagna of pancakes. Okay. All right, now I'm going to focus again. So I'm going to put some rusty. Remember, this is translucent. I'm going to put some rusty, and I'm just going to shift it up just a bit by adding kiwi gold. All these colors, by the by, are my own colors, if you weren't aware of that. I work with Paper Artsy on stamps and paints, and these are available in lots of places, but they also are available in my shop at SethApter.com. I feel obligated to do some self promotion, some shameless self-promotion. And, you know, if you guys want these, you're more than welcome to get them from my shop, but they're sold elsewhere as well. Is anyone hungry now? I am, but please, even though my paints are called things like, you know, guacamole, toffee apple, because we love naming paints after food, olive, don't eat them. You heard it from me first. All right, so I'm spreading out the translucent paints. And what I love about these is that these are going to give coverage. They're going to shift the color, but they're not going to cover any of the background or design. They're going to add depth and shadow. And again, I'm going with kind of a soft kiss. So you see what happens there. They add this lovely shift in tone, but they do not cover what's underneath. A lot of times when people do have challenges with paint, for example, stenciling, if you stencil with a translucent paint, you're not going to get a very strong image. If you stencil with an opaque paint, you are. So sometimes you think you're doing something wrong, and it's just maybe not fully knowing the material. All right, we have our extra on the brayer. So we're gonna pull it off a little bit, and I just want you to see instantly what it does is it warms this up. It really barely changed it. Okay, and Janine, in the 16,000 years we've worked together, you've never made a mistake. Today's your first day putting the same comment on YouTube and Facebook, and we have a hand for Janine. That wasn't actually smoked paprika and kiwi gold, it was rusty and kiwi gold. But you have absolutely inspired me to use smoked paprika now. Okay. And I think I'm just going to use a little bit of smoked paprika on its own. And this is obviously brighter than what we've been using. So this is going to add some brights. So that. You can see how it just begins to add some depth. And that's really what this is about, these early layers. It's about adding some depth and interest to these. You know what? I think I'm going to add more right from the brayer. I know it's pretty dry, so we're not going to overload it. But I like where this is going, I really do. And I think I want to add a few more layers of translucent paints. Let's go with some toffee apple and purple majesty. And those of you who literally just came, if you see comments about food and sandwiches, well, that was the hot topic for a while. All right, let's add a little bit of that and a little bit of purple majesty. Mostly I do use two paints at once, but not always. Right, we are about 55 minutes into this. We are going to keep going for a while, my friends. So if Janine, you have to go, I understand. If anyone else has to go, you can always come back and watch this on recording. It will stay on both YouTube and Facebook, but we are still going to play a little bit. All right, so again, I'm going to do that kissing technique. I don't want to obliterate what's underneath. And I wouldn't with a translucent, but I also don't want to just have a solid block of this new tone. I want it so it begins to add some interest and some contrast and some depth. And I want to remind everybody that if at any point in time, this is so important, it's the basis for everything I do, you get frustrated. That's just part of the process. You have layers that don't look good. And all that means is you're not done yet. Nothing says your piece has to look good until you're done. Even then, maybe not. I always talk about more is more. There's no shortchanging layer making, but you might notice that I didn't just slap it on, do that, and pull it up. It's more is more, little by little. So I just go nice and slowly, and I look to see what the layer needs. I'm feeling now it needs a little bit of olive. And I've started to, because I put some of the kiwi gold, which is yellow and translucent, over some of the blues, I've gotten some color mixing and there's a little bit of a green tint. So I'm listening to the layers and I'm going to even provide a little bit more of the green tint. This is how I decide where to go. I don't know when I start what I'm going to do. I never know what it's going to look like. I do one layer, I look at that layer and I decide what needs to be next, what the layer is telling me, and I just work until I feel like intuitively I'm ready to move to either another material or another color. Again, I'm just kissing. I'm going nice and slow here. And just pulling up and repeating. This is called, this is Purple Majesty. For those of you who are asking, you may not on YouTube see that somebody asked about that on Facebook. This is Toffee Apple. And I know lots of people in the world call it something like toffee apple, but in New York City, it's toffee apple. And then I used olive as well. All right, you know what? I think we're going to say, let's move on from the paint to the next step. And the next step is continuing to use the jelly plate, but it is going to reset here. But instead of using paints, I know, okay, let me put it out to you guys as I start pulling out more materials. Those of you who know and have seen me work, what supply am I going to use on the gel plate next? There's a little bit of a delay before I actually see, or you actually hear what I said and I see your comments. So I'm just going to have we're going to take a little break. We're going to have some iced tea. And Marie says ink. Rhonda says spray ink. Jody says ink. Carolyn says sprays. Grace says sprays. Heavy cream. Stamps or stencil. Spray ink. Ink and stamps. I mean, you already guys who were here from the beginning know the 7 items that I said I was going to use. So if you were here, you know it's either going to be a stamp or it's going to be a spray or it's going to be an ink. So I am going to use the dye sprays. Let's shift back. If you don't know the dye sprays, I have a line of dye sprays, but you can use any dye spray. I have a line of dye sprays with Aladdin. They're called Ising dye sprays. These are just a few of them. They are dye-based ink. If you've never used dye-based ink in a spray, you have probably used it in an ink pad because, and this is a way of education, Tim Holtz's Distress ink pads are dye-based. So all the amazing properties that you get with a Distress ink pad, you also get from the spray. So that's kind of a quick education. They're translucent, pretty translucent. They dry fast. They're water soluble. They're not permanent. That bothers some people. It doesn't bother me because even though I work in layers, I don't always care that my things kind of smush around. No issue with that. We're getting new people to join me, and I am, running more than an hour. So yes, Isabella, the answer is I am still live, and thank you for saying hi to the crew here. The dye sprays are matte finished. That's one of the things that makes them a little bit unique from any sprays. I also have metallics, and I know a lot of you love the metallics. Just an announcement for those of you who use the metallics is that Aladdin, the company behind this, they are going through a bottle switch for the metallics. And as of now, this moment, actually for a little while now, they are not available. They might be available in a store that had them, but we are shifting the bottles on the metallics just to make sure that they don't clog. And until that happens, they're not available. So use what you have. You can always let me know you want more, and I can let you know when they're back. But lots of people have been asking about that. And so that's the dealio. All right, so if you've never used spray ink on the gel plate, prepare to be amazed. I am going to get back to this piece, which I'm just going to linger for a second just to give you a sense of what it looks like. But I am going to show you the dye sprays on just a piece of white cardstock. Donna used them for the first time yesterday. Woohoo! Awesome. And welcome to Shaz. Julie has never had problems with them clogging. Julie, they are literally promoted as no clog. So when new buyers started to email me to say their metallics had clogged, I freaked out. And I'm on it right away because quality of my products is key to me. I don't want to send you things that won't work, don't work, die out. And so they've pulled them to get new bottles because for some reason, well, I know they switched bottles at some point and the new bottles started to clog with the mica, which is why so many sprayings always clog. But because these are matte, other than the metallics, they tend not to clog. Okay. Welcome, Fifi. Welcome, everybody who's just joining me. We are in a mega epic session. I can see after so long of not spending time with you guys doing these demos, I am missing it and I'm already like ready to do like 65,000 different things. All right, so I have a piece of white cardstock. This is a 6 by 6 inch gel plate. This is 7 by 7 just to get and start with a little bit of a frame. There are really 1,000 different ways to use the sprays, and some of them are on the gel plate. And there are 2 major ways to use them, general ways. The first is to hold the spray bottle pretty high. You don't have to shake the non-metallic ones. You're just going to spritz so that it kind of floats down nice and softly. I think you probably saw that. I'm going to use, again, multiple colors. That's Rusty Saffron, which is sort of a dirty, muted red. And let's also put in some Sunflower, which looks like that. It's like sunshine. And I held that pretty high so that when I pull, I could either kiss it or sort of do a full swipe. You get this beautiful, soft, gorgeous, watercolor-esque, bundly, blurry, spotty deliciousness. Give me some adjectives, guys. Give me some adjectives when you see this, because this just makes me beyond ecstatically happy. Now, there's probably some more there. So what I'm going to do is just get out another piece and just yummy sunrise. Pull just a little bit more. And by the end of this, I'm working on one piece, but I should have a gazillion, I've counted, loose pieces of paper that have already been started. Glowing. How did you miss the start, Bess? We actually started well more than an hour ago. So timing-wise, I guess you were an hour late. I apologize about that. Reminds you of Frayed Watercolor Digital Brush. Amazing. I love all these comments. Thank you, guys. It's 5:30 a.m. in Melbourne. And Angela can't sleep. I am so happy that I'm the one keeping you awake. And thank you all. Let's see. All right. As a quick aside, Fifi says all mica sprays clog. It's true. Although I will tell you that we had a good run with these 4 or 5 years before they changed the bottle. And we didn't have that many metallics clog. Just give the bottles a warm bath in a container. In a damp, cold climate, the plastic contracts. So the warm water in the container will expand the plastic and release the mica from the inner tube. I find the clogging happens fall through winter and they're fine in spring and summer. Wow. Okay, that is very helpful. Just quickly, hang with me, people. You know I'm so random here. Just to give you 3 hints, 2.5 hints with a metallic. So let's say you got gold mine. When you shake your metallics, you do not shake them like you shake like you think you shake them. This is not metallic, so I can do it. This is honey. You don't shake them up and down. You shake them like, you can see it not mixed here. You shake them either like a pendulum. Well, this is mesmerizing. Or you shake it like you're a kid and you're playing with Play-Doh and making Play-Doh hot dogs. And then you'll get the mix. You have to do it for a while, but the mica doesn't force itself up the tube. The other thing you should always do, and I never do because I get so caught up in the art, is every time you use it, especially a mica, when you're done, wipe it off so it doesn't clog that element as well. And thank you for all the comments about the description of here. We got tropical fruit, zippy lemon spritz. I love that. Jody loves the edges of the blobs. Superbe cette couleur. Oh, merci, merci, Isabelle. Warm, yes. Okay, so remember this first bit? I spritz from high up, and this is what I get. My other option is to spritz from close up. So let's use some coffee. Mimosa, yeah. If I go very close, it's gonna flood it. You see the difference between that. Let's use honey when I spritz from high up, much more softly and gently. It's completely different. So what that means, let's do it on this. I don't know that I would normally have chosen those colors, but I am really okay with that. You get a very different effect. You see what you get? You get that. For me, what I always then do is get the brayer, and I brayer it out. It softens it up, it spreads it out, it highlights the translucency, and I actually really love that now. Look at the difference between that segment and that segment. It's add that warmth to it and that richness and dimension. So let's lean in that, people. Let's lean in it. Judy says it's been years and since she's had a clog. Rhonda says coffee is her favorite spray and almost empty. A face is appearing. I don't know. I might have just obliterated the face. Yeah, the brayer is a great tip. It's probably my favorite tip. So we got this, right? A lot of this looks like it's wet because it looks like the color that I use, the honey, but it's actually the paint from underneath. But let's go for it. Let's add it to the real piece. You know, there's not much left. So this is also a hint. You may not want that much. So just like when you have a stamp and you ink a stamp with an ink pad, and then it's very, very wet, you're going to get a very strong impression. And sometimes it's good to ink it off. It's the same thing. Spray on here, paint on here. Sometimes it's good just to pull on a piece and then have the ghost print, the little bit that's left, be what's on your final piece. So you get an effect like that. So let's just do a little bit more. Let's lean in heavy into these tones. So I'm going to go with the coffee, but I'm going to do it kind of from high up, nice and soft. And you know what? I think I'm going to bring in some oh no, let's do cassis. If I can find cassis. Yeah, cassis. So it's going to pick up the tone that's in there already. Welcome. Welcome, Jen, from Hillbilly Scrapping in Australia. Jen, thanks so much for being here. She carries some of my products. And another person joined from Australia, which means she's up really early. All right, so we're going to go with cassis. And we're going to soft spritz. And let's do the kissing. And even with that, I may brayer it out a little bit. What it does is it softens it up. It dries it quickly. It allows me to move to another layering element right away because I like to work fast. Don't want it too spotty. I want it to be a little bit more blendy and a little bit more spotty. But what I really, really want you to see is that as I work with these translucent layers, this just gets better and better and better. And that's what it takes to make these layers. It's patience, it's time, it's effort, it's more is more, little by little. All right, so let's just work on this, which we made earlier. And let's just go heavy with what's left. And you can see how that's added sort of a brownish purplish tone there. I mean, this would be gorgeous as is die cut. My friends, those of you who use a die cut machine, just that little bit. This was just a bunch of sprays, 2 pulls really, and you get that. All right, so we really need to kind of move on. We're going to go another 15 minutes, which means this was an hour and a half in total. And we're going to move away from the gel plate. Look at that thing of beauty. And we're going to move on to some stamping with ink. Well, we're going to move on to some stamping. I may surprise you a little bit with how we're going to stamp. So I'm going to work back and forth between these two as I build. And I am going to use some of my rubber stamps. I have stamps with Impression Obsession. Sadly, they're closing completely at the end of this month. I also have stamps with Paper Artsy, and those are the ones that I'm using. As I mentioned earlier, if you weren't here, I do have a new release from Paper Artsy coming later this month. Wendy's here from Australia. You're all waking up. I love it. We do have a good question. Linda asks, can you seal dye inks with matte medium or should you not do that? Okay, here's the deal with that. I typically don't seal. I just work with more layers and I'm okay if they blend. But you can use a spray fixative or you can use matte medium. I don't do this too often. The best way to use matte medium with this so that it doesn't move is with the gel plate. So if I were to take out a brush, dip my brush in the matte medium and brush this would absolutely change all that. If you have your gel plate and you brayer a thin layer of matte medium over it, and then you just simply press and burnish with some pressure, you can then pull up, let it dry, and you have sealed it. There will be a little bit of movement. There will be a little bit of transfer from the piece to the plate, but it's not going to be as if you brushed it away. So I hope that helped and answered the question. Okay, so I'm going to use stamps in 2 different ways. Well, a million different ways, but since we only have about 15 minutes, I can't use them in every one of those million ways. So I love to use ink with an ink pad, stamps with an ink pad. Who doesn't? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose some stamps here. This is one of my newer stamps from Paper Artsy and really a favorite. I'm going to just show you the set it comes from. It comes from set 42, which is my last stamp set that came out and the 42nd stamp set that I have. And it's that stamp. Now this alphabet stamp looks like that. It's attached. They're not necessarily meant to be letter stamps. You certainly can cut them up and use them another way. They're meant mostly to be for background. So what I am going to do is I am going to place them on an acrylic block, and I am going to use the dye sprays. What's that you say? Dye sprays. So I am going to go with the coffee. I'm going to use a single color first. And I'm just going to, let's take out the gel plate for a second. I'm just going to spritz down on it. You know, you can go heavy, you know, spritz close, or you can go light. The pink, or there's a question here about the pink or reddish color that I used. So I used both Rusty Saffron, but also paint-wise, I used Rusty on earlier layers. So let's, you know, spritz a little bit, and let's just do one section a little heavier. If you can't see that, you can see it's much heavier at the bottom. And then I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to use it kind of for the background. All right, I did it upside down, so now I guess we're going this way. Now I could let that dry as is. I could help it dry. I could also use the brayer When you use the brayer, not only does it dry, it might spread it a little bit, but it also softens it. And that's what I want. I want this to be in the background as a background. I don't want it to be in the foreground. So you see how it kind of loses itself there? And then maybe what I would do is, let's get a little bit of, I don't know, let's go back to honey. Now let's do a contrast. Let's do some underwater. I might just spritz right over it so that it kind of buries it a little bit more, so it doesn't just feel like it's the top layer. Do you see how that really integrates it? So let's do a little bit more spritzing. Let's keep with the coffee, because who doesn't like coffee? Especially for you Australians, because it's so early. Several of you have noted that you haven't tried this technique before. I love that. I just love the notion that there's new ways to do things with products that you already have. I'm sort of going in different directions. Maybe I'll even go horizontal and vertical just to make this more backgroundy. And also, I haven't yet decided which direction I want this to go. So let me again lightly. I'm not doing this, people. I'm doing this nice and soft so that I just lightly integrate this with the background. You know, heavy-handed is not so good with these kinds of processes. Now, I think I'm going to take a little bit of the sunflower and spritz it on just to brighten it up a bit. And let me make mention that the darker the background, the less a light color, if it's translucent, which these are, will change it. So if the background's really dark, let's just prove my point. Doesn't it look like this would be the most gorgeous color on that? My friends, because it's translucent, you can't even see it. However, if I did it on the white, ooh, beautiful, beautiful. So you need to be aware. Oh, this is all muddying now because, yeah, this is a good reminder that I have all this dye ink on my brayer. So I will need to wash that off. Otherwise, it will blur and bleed into the next layer. So the darker you get, the less likely this is going to change things. But I think it might, yeah, it's enhancing it a bit. Not going to do anything on that black. Just a little bit of brightness there. And the only way to get this much lighter and brighter is to use opaque. And if I'm going to use opaque over all these layers, I'm going to layer it out on the jelly plate like we did before, and then I'm going to softly kiss the plate with the piece. All right, originally I was going to then stamp over this with an ink pad, and I think for the moment I'm going to put that aside because I do want to show you one other technique. All right. There's a comment here about alcohol ink on the gel plate. I actually didn't demo that. The only time I've ever used alcohol ink is on metal because I like the change of color on metal, but I've never actually used it on the gel plate. Heavy cream would be perfect. And maybe I'll do that. I'll show you guys. But the first thing I want to show you is not to waste anything. So I put this on an acrylic block and I spritzed, right? So what happens when I pull this up is I still have some wet ink on the acrylic block. Am I going to waste that? No. I'm shaking my head. No. I'm just going to use it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just press it. Look at that. Look how cool that is. I'm just going to press it right in, lift it up. Look at that. Look at that. Because of the cuts in here, most stamps don't have that. And not every one of these comes with those cuts. Sometimes you get these cut with just a block, but you get all that under those little tendrils. Now, this is beginning to look Oh, no worries about the alcohol ink. No worries at all. All right, so I just love that. I'm not gonna have time to work more on this, but this looks pretty cool and phenomenal. Want to make mention that for me, often my next step after I begin to build these is to cut them down. So for example, I might get a little viewfinder, cut say a 4x4 inch square out of this and move it around and decide which of these elements do I want. So let's pretend we have a viewfinder here. So if I did that, did that, did that, and did that, gives me an idea of what, actually use the black, of what that sort of new smaller piece of art looks like. Right now it's catching the light really badly, but when I bring it up, you'll see how sort of rich and dark those tones are. That's it. Beautiful. All right. So my friends, it's Seth Apter here. I just demoed almost an hour and a half. Well, we had our Mixed Media Tuesday, our first one, for an hour and a half. The beginning of it was some technical glitches. The rest of it was then announcements. So if you're interested in hearing what's happening in the next month or so, actually a couple months, and a scoop on what's going to happen and where I'm taking people in 2026, plus see a little bit that's in the shop, you can watch again from the beginning. Otherwise, jump ahead about a half hour and you can see where the demo started. The demo was, this is our first Mixed Media Tuesdays. I kind of wanted to go back to basics and how I start my art, which is usually the jelly plate and layers of paint and ink, and then building from there and then going in any of a million directions. I am thrilled to now have this every second and fourth Tuesday of the month. They won't always be an hour and a half. Sometimes they'll be longer. Sometimes they'll be shorter. And I am loving being on YouTube and using StreamYard rather than Zoom. Don't tell Zoom. I don't want Zoom to feel bad, so that I can reach all you guys on YouTube. If you're coming at the very end, all of this on recording will be on my YouTube, the live section. You got to click over to the live section to see it. It'll be on my Facebook profile. I may even edit it and put it on YouTube in a shorter format. I so appreciate Janine. This is the first time she's worked with me in this new format, which means that she typed everything twice, once in Facebook and once in YouTube. So we need to give Janine a hand, and a million thank yous to all of you who showed up. So appreciative. There were so many familiar names, and there were some new names to me, which I really liked. You all participated, you shared, you told me what your favorite sandwich was. And I am really hungry now. So I want to say thank you. I'm going to see you in 2 weeks for a special Mixed Media Tuesday later in the day at 4 p.m. Eastern, because that is the day of my new release with Paper Artsy. All right, so thanks, everybody. So appreciate it. So happy to be back with these lives. Want to make sure that anybody and everybody, no matter your ability to travel, no matter your income source, no matter anything, that you have a chance to spend time with me and I can demo and do some other fun things. So be well, everybody. Take good care. Hope to see you soon. Bye.